Hey everyone, it's Jake Hall, the Manufacturing Millennial. We are here at Manufacturing in America 2023, and I am with the one and only Raj Batra, the president of Siemens Digital Industries US. It's a pleasure to have you on this conversation today. I've talked with now 7 or 8 people at this event so far, and it's a phenomenal way to kind of almost wrap up the event having you on the show. So thank you.
No, thanks. Good to be here.
You know, so you've been with Siemens for 30 plus years now. You've seen
Almost
30
yeah.
years coming up.
Yeah,
and you've seen the industry change. Man, has manufacturing changed the last 30 years?
Yeah.
What got you into manufacturing to start with?
Well, so when I finished my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering, which was here in the area, and I co-opted while I was doing that. So I was working half the time and I was going to school, and it took me about 5 years to finish off. But the great part about it is I didn't walk out with any debt. I had practical experience, and I was able to do things in industry, and I really advocate for those kind of co-op programs. When you're in the university, and I had the option just to go 4 years and go live in a dorm and party my head off, and I took a bit of a different route. So I was actually recruited out of college to join one of our biggest competitors now, which was Allen Bradley or Rockwell Automation at the time, and they wanted me to join as an application engineer, and I sort of wanted to be in technical sales. Right, still needed an engineering discipline, and I would say that was really the start of it. Right, so that brought me into the industry. I was in Houston in the hydrocarbon processing industry, so a lot of refineries, a lot of petrochemical work, different kind of business.
Yeah.
But that's where I more or less cut my teeth in the industry, and then I moved back into the Midwest and covered the auto industry and discrete manufacturing for Siemens. I was actually recruited by Siemens.
Okay.
And so that started the journey, right?
That's fantastic. So as you've grown on this journey for the past 30 years, what has been some of, I guess you could say, your not necessarily your proudest moments, but the moments that have excited you around how our industry has changed and grown, where manufacturing has seen its ups and downs through the cycle that you've been in manufacturing? Well, what have you just said, wow, what a ride this has been? What are some of those memories?
Yeah. So first, I didn't ever expect to be in the industry for 30 years. When you came out of school, and I came as an individual contributor into Siemens, and then grew my career, and then took on progressively more, took on expanded roles. And I was really I would say the biggest thing was really pioneering our footprint in the auto industry back then. Right, so there was a lot of globalization going on with automakers. They were trying to standardize on technology. They were trying to get a common footprint all over the world. They didn't want a plant to look different in the United States that it looked in China, that it looked in Europe, right? And so just remember, before a lot of the standardization came in, you had very different technologies that were used in all these different environments, right? And so harmonizing this was really important for them, so they get consistency out of it. They were all trying to copy Toyota. Yeah. Because Toyota had this really consistent bill of process, consistent factory anywhere in the world, and they were known for quality, and they were known for just the great manufacturing processes they had. So I think that race to standardize really drove much more automation standardization, much more uniformity in plants worldwide. So I was, I must have made 110 delegations in and out of China, which was just fascinating, right? So, and at that time, General Motors had a joint venture with Shanghai General Motors, and so we were just in and out of China a lot, and helping to automate and standardize the automation for those manufacturing plants. So I would say it's really this fast adoption and the pioneering effort in automotive, right? So getting our footprint very strong in automotive. And if you think back 30 years with Siemens, I mean, we 30 years we were known as a big German global brand that would bring technology into the States, but it wasn't mainstream. So part of that early phase was really trying to Americanize the brand. Yeah. Right, and build our footprint. Today we're in a completely different position, and I always say that when I hand the baton off to somebody else at some point, they're gonna walk into an environment that was nothing like
what you experienced with a couple decades ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give them the whole tutorial about blood on the sword and how there was all this pioneering work done. And now they sort of got it easy now. Yeah. Because Siemens is a household name for all that you see here at Ford Field, and manufacturing in America. So I think it was, it was the journey of, setting Siemens up, pioneering into these very complex vertical markets, expanding the footprint, driving standardization all over the world with our technology, and then so that I think was a really a big accomplishment for us, right? And
Yeah.
and I grew my career based on that, right? So you take some risks and and you got to do prudent risk taking, and I took some prudent risks, and they paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you see where do you see the adoption of technology going in the next few years in terms of what are the shortcomings that are making manufacturers maybe not want to adopt at the rate that they should be, and if they do that because of risks or costs, what do you see as what's holding manufacturers back from adopting, and then what would the counter of that be in terms of saying there's all those risks, but because technology has grown to really, fill those risks in a lot of areas, you should look at this technology.
I think we outsourced a lot of manufacturing in this country for decades, and matter of fact, if you just think back to the Model T, and I hate to go back to that much history, but you think of Detroit, it was the center of capitalism for 100 years.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where you pioneered the moving assembly line, and this is what brought prosperity into America. And so we
This
went
right
from,
here was the manufacturing hub of the world.
Absolutely.
Right here.
So I think Henry Ford would be not so happy turning over a little bit right now, just because we moved a lot of that offshore, right?
Yeah.
And so we went to low-cost countries. We were looking for low-cost labor, and that happened for decades. We put a lot of CFOs on top of companies. And nothing against CFOs. You need them. They're very important. And I think we lost some generational knowledge in that, right? So manufacturing is expertise driven, right? And then it's passed down generation to generation, and you stimulate interest with kids, when it's passed down, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is we made it a stigma in the country, right? And so in essence, that's the best way to put it. And we moved it offshore for a lot of industries, and of course you fast forward so with that moving offshore, and you fast forward to today, and with all the political tension, the technology decoupling, what's happening in China, personal protection equipment in the pandemic, we were exposed with
massively
with how poor our vertical supply chains were. If we needed ventilators, we were we couldn't get them. If you needed masks, you couldn't get them.
95% of our masks and all that stuff was manufactured outside of the U.S.
from China or some other place. So you're fully dependent on them, and I think that was the first step of major exposure to show how vulnerable we were as a country, and I think things then started to move forward from there. And today there's a lot of brand equity about with Made in America, right? So companies want to manufacture in the country. They want to manufacture in close proximity to their markets and customer base. That's really important. And to do that, you have to build greenfields. You have to build new plants, and we're sort of back in the factory business now.
Absolutely.
And I think our construction spend on manufacturing in 22 is like $110 billion or something close to that, and that's the highest on record. And I think we're just getting started with this. So all these federal incentives, and public-private collaboration on battery plants, on chip fabs, on all this stuff is putting hundreds of billions of dollars of thrust into the U.S. economy with manufacturing here. And the challenge we're going to have there is by losing some of this generational knowledge when you offshore things. Now people want to do this in a very state-of-the-art, sophisticated way. No one wants to do this in a dated way.
Yeah.
Right? So no one says, hey, look, I'm going to go benchmark this plant. It's 30, 40 years old, and I'm going to copy that and clone it. You won't get anyone to work there. So they want to do this in a very sophisticated way. They want to use all the advances in digitalization, use more advanced automation. They're trying to deal with the labor crisis right now. And so it's going to take a lot in this country for us to equip these plants and not short circuit that kind of growth because of labor.
Yeah.
Right? So technology's there. Technology can do it. Maybe it wasn't there 30, 40 years ago. It's there today. So great adopters and fast movers and first movers are the ones that are really pioneering with this, and some of those guys are going to be way ahead of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought up the stigma of manufacturing, what that previous generation looked like, where it was this dark, dirty, dull, dangerous industry that where our grandparents used to work. And I think what we saw coming out of the pandemic in 2020 was we need to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. A lot of companies are now exploring, because now it wasn't always just the supply chain issues. It really brought awareness to some of the massive issues that they had when it came to where they were sourcing products and parts. And we want to bring back manufacturing, want to bring back these green fields and update our brownfield facilities, but we can put all the technology we want in them, but we can't necessarily always, field it with the workers that we need and the skilled workers that we need. So I love to move in the conversation on the workforce and what it looks like to get not only the baby boomers and the Gen Xers reskilled and retrained to change the way that they've been doing manufacturing processes for the past 15, 20, 25 years, but also to get the millennials and the Gen Xers excited about this industry. Where do you think we need to improve, or how can we get younger generations excited about the technology that you're seeing brought into this industry, but also to say, look at the career opportunity. You've been at Siemens now for almost 30 years, and which is crazy, because when you look at we were talking about this earlier. The average millennial is going to have 7 jobs by like the age of like 35 or 40, where the Gen Xers like yourself, are 1 or 2, 3 jobs their entire career. How do we make manufacturing this purpose-driven industry where you can grow and be a part of this industry for your entire career, and you'll be successful at it too?
Yeah, so I would say first you should expect the millennials to leave. You shouldn't expect them to stay.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. They leave and they hop jobs, and so to try to make them a boomer, and only have one job in the next 30 years. I mean, it's probably not going to be the case. I mean, you may have select examples of that, but in general, they're moving around. But that doesn't mean you can't still build a very thriving business with that movement of millennials, because you'll also bring new talent in. And they're going to be more diverse in their expertise, so it's not all bad, right? So we always think, hey, if they leave, it's bad, because the boomers only had one job in their life, right? So I'll just say this: it starts with parents. Parents are fundamentally important to stimulate interest with kids, and if you're you're a child, and I'm telling my kids, hey, look, don't ever go in that industry because it's dirty, grungy, greasy, it doesn't have, it doesn't really, carry a lot of class with it, and then I think it just, permeates in their mind, and they find a different track. And so I think a lot of that happened in the past few decades, right? And so not everyone was racing to go into a manufacturing plant. But today, if you go in those plants and they're done in a state-of-the-art way, they're the most clean, sophisticated, automated environments
100%.
You could ever find. They're using digital, gaming technologies and simulations. I mean, these are all, artificial intelligence, robotics. So the new, wrench is a computer, an iPad, and so it's they're very sophisticated facilities. But I think parents play a massively important role, and we don't always go back to that, but it's really where it starts.
Yeah, it does, and in a lot of ways, from everything growing up, I would say that parents who invest in their kids, you can see the statistics on they're much more likely to go to college and be successful and not graduate with debt and buy a house sooner, and parents make a massive impact on a kid's life.
Because when we offshored things, right, and we were trying to do the R&D and innovation work in the country, and then we were manufacturing somewhere else. You need those environments in close proximity. It's tough to innovate and do R&D work and then have your manufacturing plant, 20,000 miles away. Right, and you can't perfect it. Right, so fast forward to today, digitalization is helping that. We can do, we can simulate things. We can use virtualization. We can do things, on the computer to perfect designs and products and the composition of products before we actually ever do anything physically. And that's so you can do that anywhere in the world. You can do that collaboratively with people in the world.
Absolutely.
And then perfect a design, perfect a product, perfect a process. And then I was just at a meeting yesterday here at Manufacturing America. I mean, we have an executive luncheon with 20 or 30 top CEOs, and they said what simulation has allowed us to do has cut our labor time by 40, 50%. We can perfect things first before we physically do them. And that's what that technology has really enabled people to do. So if I pivot back to labor, so parents are really important, and it's really important that we populate educational institutions with the same technology that kids are going to use when they walk into manufacturing, environments. So
Like what you guys are doing with the Lift Institute here.
yeah. Lyft is one, but we do a lot with community colleges. We put billions of dollars of in-kind software grants into four-year universities. We're doing a lot with mechatronics programs in community colleges. We're putting the same technology in those facilities that people are going to walk into, the real world and experience and use, and so then they hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Then they bring their own ideas with it. Right, so if you've touched simulation, you've touched the software, you've touched advanced automation, you've touched networking. We have Industry 4.0 labs that are happening in all sorts of different places, all over the country. I think that's going to be the key. Just to really expose people, get them interested in this, and if the parents haven't stimulated interest, then we'll try to do it, at the college level, or at the community college level, and so that whole ecosystem has got to work well, for us to get the quality and kind of labor we want and to grow it in the United States.
I love that. And let's talk more about the community colleges and the local community. What should manufacturers and local companies be doing better to get involved with the local universities or the trade schools or even the local high schools that have career tech and vocal programs?
Yeah.
Siemens has seen, I'm sure, a very much return on investment when it comes to getting a much more skilled workforce ready to when they graduate to go into the industry. What should other manufacturers, from the experience that you've learned, why should manufacturers be investing not only their money but their time and energy as well into local communities?
So it's a feeder for their own businesses, right? And we're all going to be competing for the same talent. So this group of people coming out, as boomers leave, and they take their tribal knowledge with them, that's not all bad, because you bring millennials in, they're more tech savvy, they haven't known the world without the internet or an iPhone.
Yeah.
And they game, which is all simulation,
Yep.
right? So they're very attuned to a tech-rich industry, which we've seemed to adopt very well in our consumer world. We just haven't translated it into U.S. manufacturing because a lot of it's been outsourced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So now you're bringing it back, and now you want to insource it, but now the labor doesn't follow the pattern, and so I think companies need to incubate the kind of talent that they want. So you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
So if they sow the seeds in the right areas, I'm sure Tesla is doing things in Austin, and BMW is doing things in South Carolina with Clemson and community colleges to get the workforce they need. They know how critical it is. And if they're investing in that, in their local environments, local communities, on real world projects, on things that require expertise, on helping incubate talent, so you don't have to go find it somewhere, and poach it.
Yeah.
So you're gonna grow it, and you also galvanize people to a company, where people, kids understand that, hey, look, that's a place where I want to work. Or coming out of college, you say that's a place where because if you don't get them there, then you're all just fighting each other to get the best 10 guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the people that sometimes lose with that is a small, mid-sized enterprise.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they can't compete.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you got this super sophisticated person and everyone wants him, and the SMEs left to not have much.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the tough part. So we're here at Manufacturing America 2023, and on the floor there are 4 or 5 high schools that are showing off their first robotics. There's high school students. What would you go back and tell Raj from 30 years ago when he was still in high school? Or what would you tell a young 16, 17, 18-year-old boy or girl who's inspired to be a part of this industry? What motivation or what encouragement would you give them to say, explore manufacturing as your career?
Yeah. Well, so the advice I give myself if I had to rewind back 30 years ago is pay more attention to things, and really learn the base mechanics. It's really important, right? There's some things I wish I would have done better 30 years ago and learned that really well, because it would have helped me out a lot today.
Yeah.
And no, I figured it out, but I could have done it the easier path.
Took a lot longer to figure it out that way.
I didn't have to fall off a cliff to figure it out, So look, I think there's so much digitalization technology and simulation and technology that's going to be used all over the world. It's and I if I was a kid today, coming out of school in FIRST Robotics, I would really understand that,
Yeah.
and understand how to use it, understand how to apply it, understand the underlying technologies that make that work. Because if you can do it for a robot, you're doing it for a plane, you're doing it for a car. It's the same simulation technologies.
Yeah.
And so the more comfortable you get with it, the more rich you become in that technology, and then you're really ready to drive an impact when you get in an industry.
To embrace and change the digital world that we're moving into.
Right. So and I think these are sort of digital natives.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take their own ideas and take their own pioneering effort to design and innovate.
Awesome. Raj, one final question for you as we wrap up this conversation. What is something that you wish you've had a person ask you a question on? What is a topic that you wish you would be able to discuss more, but that question has never been asked to you?
What is something I wish that I could?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, yeah, good, yeah. So look, we talk so much about technology, and we talk so much about what technologies are prevalent. What does the labor force need to do? And we don't talk about the ability to drive an impact in communication skills and having business savvy, right? And that's really important if you want to move forward, move your career forward. I think the ability to inspire, the ability to communicate, the ability to lead teams and to influence. I mean, sometimes those are things that are not taught in school.
Yeah.
But they're really important. So if you just, focus the kids on, hey, just grab all this technology and get the best grades possible, but don't worry about the real world aspects, you got to hone your emotional intelligence too, right? That's such an important part of, moving things forward, getting teams to work together, to innovate, to deal with the world, to deal with with a broader environment. Sometimes you see kids that have hardship, pick that up, because they've had to grow up quickly, but sometimes that becomes the downside when you get into industry. Some people don't have that; they don't have those skills, so it becomes a lot tougher for them to navigate corporations and bigger corporations and deal with politics. These are all just real world things.
Be your own entrepreneur with it, whatever you do.
Right. So hone your emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Raj Batra, the president of Siemens Digital Industries US, thank you so much for this conversation that you've had today and the insights that you've shared around technology, workforce, growth for our future generations. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
All right, everyone, we'll catch you soon.